Again, my name is Chase Cavalera. I am the wildlife rescue agent, which entails hands-on rescue and investigation of non-law enforcement, DNR, Department of Natural Resources, wildlife issues, okay? I would say I work for the Department of Natural Resources, but that's not true at all, because that would entail a salary and benefits and a pension. But my boss does have a gun and a badge, so I definitely pay attention when he says, don't do that anymore. Anyway, the way, apparently the state of Illinois has got some fundage issues in certain areas, so maybe you're aware of this. So he said, as long as you mind the rules, and there's plenty of them, state, local, federal, and then there's conservation police officer type rules, the DNR rules, and then there's big picture science. So everything I do, which may not be what everybody wants to hear or see, all the things I do, a lot of things are taken into consideration. So always understand that, I got a call the other day, lady was upset about a goose. It was outside, it was 20 degrees. The goose had friends, and then the goose apparently didn't have friends. Maybe she said something, it was out of line, I don't know. But the fact is, the goose was standing on one leg and would sit and then stand. I don't know, maybe it wasn't too mobile, but there's a lot of geese in town on one leg. And some of them just plain old lazy. I don't know if you've been past Miller Park lately, but they're just sitting on the ice when it's frozen. I'm just like, go, fly away. Aren't you supposed to be somewhere in this, southern, warmer? They don't seem to care. So I get some calls and people freaking out. I'm like, it's a migratory bird. There's no shortage of them. So if I grab a family-oriented migratory bird and drag it away, I've really screwed things up big picture for that family unit. Now, it's possible that I might be able to somehow get it back to the original geese, and not to be rude, but some geese look the same to me. So it's hard matching them back up, and they kind of know, this is where I found you. Maybe, I don't know. So you've got to try to understand that there's some things, unless certain animals, most of them are really down and out, really not supposed to mess with them. But kind of the rule is they can't run, they say walk, talk, no. Walk, run, fly, or swim, I'm to leave it alone. Some people will see a fox or a coyote. He's got a limp. Chase, do something. On my best day, with the right footwear, which is questionable usually, I can't outrun a three-legged fox or coyote. Nobody in here can, or ever was able to. They are fast, and very sly. So if it can run away from me, it's probably able to hunt and get away from most other things. But we'll get into that a little bit more. So as you know, what I really am trying to do here with the whole thing is try to solve some issues. I'm a problem solver, okay? Not everything. First year, I got to tell you, I was lacing up my boots, jumping in the Tahoe on every single call. That was exhausting. It was a waste of resources. I remember one day I was running around. It was blistering hot out, and I had 4 calls simultaneously. And I'm trying to, at that point, I was trying to prioritize, which one was the most important and would require less of me to get done, and which was closest. It was a nightmare. But since then, I've gotten a little smarter. Nothing is like experience. A veterinary background is good for a lot of things, especially in the clinic. But when it comes to different species and, like I said, the big picture science and what's going on outside, that's a whole different animal. I was mentored dogs and cats, that live in people's houses, not the kind of needs that they have out in the wild. How this all got started is kind of a combination thing. Once upon a time, I was a personal trainer at Gold's and haven't been as of past year. But we have an atrium at the big Gold's on Commerce, or is it Currency? Currency Drive. And a duck laid some eggs, and they're like, Chase, Chase, there's a duck. I don't know why I'm been the guy. Oh, by the way, I brought my mom. In case any of you were under the impression, and I've heard this, that I was raised by wolves or squirrels or something, there's proof. I was not. And I got footwear and a tie to show that I'm not a complete savage. So I got to clean up a little bit. So for some reason, ever since then, and I'm not going to drag my mom up here to back me up on this one, but I've been an animal kid person the whole time. I'm not sure how I don't have Lyme disease, because back in my early days, we lived in the forest a lot, and I played in the forest, and I had the ticks and the fleas a lot. And I sleep with dogs. You wake up with fleas. That was me. So, but they are house pets, not wolves or coyotes, whatever. Anyway, so for some reason, everyone's always come to me about if there's an animal issue. Even when I was nobody, I'm like, I don't know why you always ask me, but I'm flattered. So one time, well, this is the duck situation, lucky. Well, the duck managed to lay eggs, and I started talking to the Department of Natural Resources. I'm like, listen, what do I do? Because these ducks, or these eggs, they're not going to be eggs forever. And, well, they gave me some ideas. And so when it was a Sunday, I remember, I get the call, Chase, there's ducklings everywhere in the atrium running around. It's not a very big area, but it's 2 stories down with an open roof. So it was my hangout. That's where I used to take my clients to chat about things. But what other people didn't realize is what the Department of Natural Resources had already told me. Put the ducks in a box, take the box outside, try to get the mama duck to follow you, and deliver the ducks in the parking lot. It's not a great location, but ducks don't always make good decisions. That's why they have like 13 at a pop, because they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. So 13 ducklings running around, and I forgot basic law enforcement tactics, cover your exits, and I failed to do that. So, did I screw something up? I'll bet you I have that remote control in my pocket. What did I do? Screwing everything up. Great. Well, there it is, but now it's blown up. I really wish I was good at, I'm good at other stuff. So the ducks, there we go. The ducks are in the parking lot and are in the, oh, there it is. They're in the atrium. I managed to box them up. I forgot to cover the exits. They started diving down into these drain holes. I'm freaking out. I managed to get some of them out of the drain in the parking lot, and as it turns out, I couldn't get to one. One kept me up all night long. I was freaking out about this duckling, and I was really upset. And every time I'd go, I kept going there. 6 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I had a client at like 9:30, so I was there at 9:15. And this time, I could see the duckling. It was big. I mean, it was the bigger than the usual iron cast covers. Somehow I snatched it up with one arm, reached down, picked up this duckling. I was like, ah! Like this huge burden had just been lifted off me, all the negativity from this stranded duckling. And then it come over me. Uh-oh. Now I got a whole lot more responsibilities. What do I do with this duckling? At that point, I did not know that there was rehabs and stuff like where I could take the duckling. So I'm going to get this rolling. I think you'll like it if it'll play. These are all videos, and that might not work. Oh, I got to push the play button. Again, like I said, I'm good at other stuff. So as it turns out, I took the duckling to Ginny, but the duckling lived at our house, and this is totally against the law, and I did not know that. I bent some rules along the way until I learned. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. This is too hypothermic. This great soundtrack to this. I made this. Brad helped me. This is my first one. He usually edits for me. But here's a couple baby raccoons that somebody left in a bucket. They found them and put them in a bucket on the concrete, and it was like 40 degrees or something outside. I'm not sure how they survived, but at stoplights, as you can see, it's red. I've got them in my shirt underneath my hoodie, and then I'd take them out and put them in front of the heat and massage them and roll them around. You got to get that blood flowing. So I'm talking about let's get physical. I was messing with them for a minute, harassing them, but trying to get them to come to life here. But sure enough, they did survive. And that's not the first time I've had to do that. I was hoping we have audio because it's kind of funny. But I did put in all the text. So there's going to be some other videos that play here, unless I have to keep hitting play, which may be the case on other things. Anyway, so quite frankly, I was pretty upset that we found out that we could take the ducklings to a duckling, Lucky, which, by the way, I was really impressed with a duckling. Now, you're not supposed to raise any animal by itself. No, that's a big no-no. Okay, that's another thing I learned, because they don't know how to be like a duck. They already know some imprinted duck stuff. That's already like in the CPU. I tried to teach him to swim. I put him in the tub full of cool water, and he just went and dove underwater, and I even threw some mealworms in there. He was diving in. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't have to worry about teaching you that. So that was pretty impressive. I did teach him Netflix and chilling, however. So he will never try, if he ever tries to repeat that story to some other duck, they will never believe him. So I gave him the duck over to Ginny Underwood over in Hayworth, or Hudson, should I say. And I'm just going to keep hitting play on these. A little background thing going on here, if I can make it work. And so eventually I started talking to Ginny, and I said, you know what, if there's something that you need from us, let me know, I can help you. I have a veterinary background. She's like, oh, that's not going to do anything. I'm like, she can be kind of cranky sometimes. She's like, it'll be helpful in some ways, but you don't know anything about wildlife. I'm like, well, all right, fine. This is a great horned owl, super duper protected animal. So if you see one, don't pick it up. Call me, because I have clearance that law enforcement doesn't have to handle endangered species as well as federally protected animals. So this guy, it looks cute, looks like I have some magical touch. That's because he's not healthy. Otherwise, he would fly away or whoop me. So, and he's clacking his beak, and he's not real happy with me at that point. But this guy is super emaciated. You can't tell because of his feathers, but he's super sick and underfed. Another thing that I saw was 1-800-CRITTERS truck drove past me. This is all within a couple of years of each other. I was driving down the highway, I saw 1-800-CRITTERS. I'm like, what is 1-800-CRITTERS? I called them. I said, what do you do with all the little baby raccoons in the world that you have when you trap something? Like, well, we don't have a release site, so we just terminate them. I'm like, ah! So I said, well, what do I got to do to convince you to give them to me? And she said, well, you need a letter. She could give me 5 minutes. And she actually called me back and told me, she's like, you need a letter from the Department of Natural Resources that says that you're a licensed rehabber, and we'll just gladly hand you over the animals. Ooh. So I looked into that, and apparently where I live, being in town, would not be such a great place to have hundreds of raccoons in my backyard. It's not going to go down well. So the folks that do the rehabbing are generally retired women. I haven't seen a guy do it yet, but women that have their garages or their basement or something set up. They've got a whole, like a clinic going on, and then their yard is already out by a lake or out in the boonies, so they can do what's called a soft release, which is fantastic because you can only raise an animal to a certain degree. You only have so many days you're allowed to keep them. But you don't want it to go beyond that because you want them to be wild. You don't want them to be reliant on you. The beauty is when they kick them out, it's a soft release. They can come and go. Some of you probably have kids and remember when they'd come back and do their laundry, raid the fridge, borrow some money, and then you wouldn't see them for another week or two. Just kind of like that until they grow up and fend for themselves better. But that was a young raccoon with distemper. And so, or no, that's still the owl. We're talking about the next one. I'm jumping ahead. Anyway, so I decided I couldn't do the whole rehabbing thing because obviously I live in town, that's not going to work. Then a little bit later, all of this happened in a pretty tight time frame. Some gals come up with this Saving Our Wildlife of Bloomington Normal and Surrounding Areas Facebook page, little group. And from what I could tell, it was a bunch of gals clucking about things, but they didn't really have a plan. Beginning to end plan, and certainly no boots on the ground, and nobody that was really ready to jump down a manhole, climb a tree, do whatever it takes to get the job done. And so that's when I jumped in and started talking to them, and they became like dispatch for me for a while, and only sending me the things that needed to be dealt with. But then somehow they got circumvented, and then they just call me directly with every single thing now. So a huge part of what I do is simply on the phone because it's a lot of educating. And I'd rather spend a minute or two, 5, 10, I can be long-winded, so sometimes longer, but educating somebody on what is going on. Some people are just plain old freaking out. They hear a noise and they're losing their minds over something. And sometimes it's just talking them off the ledge, but there's a lot of education that I do that gives them an idea on what to do in what situation, and it settles their nerves. Keep in mind, animals almost never call me. It's always people. And so that's where it starts. And I am not stomping around in the forest looking for trouble. Understand that. Everything that I'm encountering is only a certain percentage of all the animals that are in Illinois, of course, but it's all relative to what we are doing. It's our houses and our cars and all our buildings that are interfering with what's the natural course of things, and that's how I'm trying to mediate the situation between people and animals. And so basically I got, again, with the Department of Natural Resources, and we sat down, went over some guidelines and whatnot, and basically they give me the clearance I need to handle these things. The police call me now. McLean County Sheriff, Bloomington, Normal, whatever. That's kind of awesome when the police call you for help. I'm like, yeah! And you're lacing up your boots and jumping in the Tahoe on that one every time. I'll be there in 10 minutes. So this is some foxes that were horsing around, and they fell into a window well. Now, I don't know if you saw me get squirted in the video, where I was like, yeah, anal glands, dogs get spooked, certain animals do that, and so I got a little stinky on that one. But this is not a how-to video by any means. Don't do what I do, because there's a lot of times I'm not wearing the proper footwear or protective gear. I've got some gloves here. There is no gloves yet. Mom got me some good ones for Christmas, but there are no gloves that are 100% bite-proof, because even if the teeth don't puncture, it still can crush. So I've had a lot of bites go through leather gloves, and so you kind of know what to do and who not to mess with and what you can get away with. I used to have more like a kind of a SWAT look coming out, and I was coming at it with some shock and awe, but it occurred to me later, maybe it started with laziness. Not lazy, but carefree behavior. I might have, little stupid sliders on, and I show up half barefooted, shorts on, tank top, basically looking like a bum, and handling situations. But when I have less protection on, it keeps me in check. Because going in as a negotiator, with the video, you can't hear me, but I'm talking to the animals in a softer tone than I am even with y'all. So there's a lot more negotiation going on than like, gotcha! You don't want to do that ever, because they're scared, they're hurt, and what's the most dangerous animal? A scared and hurt animal. So and you want me to go and get it somehow and take care of it. So although it seems dumb to be open-toed shoes and lack of gear, I always have my gloves though. It brings me to a vulnerable enough level that it keeps me as a good negotiator. That makes sense. We got several different kinds of. I have. Here we go. So I get calls about everything you can imagine. There was a Facebook dispute the other day because a cat was stuck in a tree. Well, how do cats get out of trees, folks? They climb down, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a fan of cats. It's not a secret. And then they use that against me. He hates cats. He's not coming out. It's not that. Salma Hayek could have been 25 feet up in a frozen tree in a snowstorm, and there's only so much I can do. Maybe I ought to give it more effort if Salma Hayek was trapped up there. Chase, come and get me. Puppy. Yeah, I would have come down. I would have found more of a way. But it's a cat in a frozen tree, which may or not be dead. The fire department already said no. Animal control, and it's their purview, already said no. And a stray cat that no one was even claiming is in a tree, and you want me to go up there. So I said, well, I can't do it. I cannot fly. And if I still didn't even have a home, so I would have to take it to jail after that. So anyway. So cat calls, I only do wildlife, just so we're clear. The things that have a name that are tame and domesticated, that's for animal control. Your tax dollars go to that. The things that are snarling and biting and don't have any kind of domestication or names, that's my purview. That's where my responsibility comes in. So there's a lot of things that I do that are not, everyone wants me to grab an animal and take it off. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes you have to think about what's going on. These two boys are getting distemper shots and ivermectin so they're getting dewormed and distemper. Sometimes we give them parvo too. So some of the rehabs I work with, we go the extra distance to make sure that it's going to be a healthy animal for the distance. Which I don't know. And in some people's minds, that's not great for population control, but it still works out in the end. What we got here? Oh, this one's funny. There's a silly little tool. I think I got it. I don't know if it was at Walmart or something. See this thing? Not the net. This thing. It's the Gosling grabber or the Duckling squeezer or whatever. These little cups. This thing has like zero tension. Like it's just enough to grab a duckling. Or in this case, unfortunately, whoops, I should have edited that out. But as you can see here, the Gosling grabber works on raccoon kits. And so, yeah, I couldn't get in there. Look at the space. But making a way out of no way and being a problem solver is most of the job description. Okay, so not everything is, and like I said before, a lot of what I do is education, even if it's over the phone. Wild canines. Who here has seen a fox or a coyote lately in town? Almost everybody. Every day? No? I think you're lucky if you get to see one, because that doesn't happen all the time. And both critters are pretty stealthy animals. Fox can be a little bit more lazy when it comes to being an evasive species, because coyotes, man, they can blend in and be 10 feet away from you, and they'll just sit there real quiet and you don't even know it. But they're all pretty smart or sly. So if you see one, don't freak out. There's no record of a baby being stolen by a coyote or a fox. Not to my knowledge. And I don't know that anyone's even had a... This one's kind of gross. It's not gross, but it's pretty interesting, at least to me. Now, this is inside the clinic. This is at Prairie Oak. They have a wildlife designation, and so I work with them a lot. This little chipmunk, I love chipmunks. I don't know why, I just do. And if I see a chipmunk, much like the foxes and the coyotes, I feel like it's going to be a good day if I see a chipmunk in the morning. So I just keep putting more chipmunks in my yard. Increase the odds, of course. But this one was called in. He'd gotten caught up in some kind of garden fencing, that little like flexible plastic, I don't know what that's for, but he got tangled in it somehow, and the flies attacked him and started laying eggs all over him. And I thought I could handle it at home, cleaning him up, but then, like, I hope you've all already eaten, but there was little tiny maggots behind the eyeball and stuff moving around. So it's like, I can't get those out with what I've got at the house. So took it to the vet. Is this not playing? Or is that the end of it? Oh, that's the end of that one. Took it to the vet, and we put it in that little, we were using isoflurane, which is what you use to knock them out, you know. And sure enough, the maggots hated isoflurane. And they just started coming out. And then we cleaned up the rest of it. We spent some time, good 20 minutes, cleaning up that chipmunk, but nursed him to health and set him free in the backyard. And last I saw, he was in good shape. So I deal with hawks and eagles, super protected, okay? So don't grab, and actually don't touch any wildlife. Just let me handle it. Yeah, this video doesn't show it, but I about ate it sliding down that hill with inappropriate footwear. But they didn't say I had to go into the forest to find this hawk. I thought it was going to be in the driveway. But this is a red tail, and they can hurt you pretty bad, mostly with their talons, although their beak could probably take a finger off. But yeah, this guy, I can't remember what's going on with him. His wings look good right there, but maybe he's got something else going on. Okay, so wild canines, I think that with the influx of ducks and geese we've seen in the parking lots of the mall and Menards and other such places, how would wild canines not come to town? We've all heard the term sitting duck, right? Now, if you've ever held a duckling in your hand, it is adorable. You cannot fall in love, not fall in love with it, because it's amazing. It's adorable. It's soft and warm and chewy and tender. See, that's what I'm saying. So two of wild canine, tender vittles. So I would say if I was a wild canine, I would run right to Menards and get dinner every time. So I think that those numbers are going to fluctuate. Maybe more canines, less waterfowl. So don't freak out, because they really don't want to eat your dog or your kids. That's what I get a lot of concern about. Outdoor cats, as we know, I'm not a fan. But if they're inside your house, it's none of my business. So if you want that kind of pet, that's great. But The rule is the same in McLean County as it is with pit bulls, leash law. Cats, leash law. Iguana, leash law. And yes, I have caught iguanas in town. Somebody must have cut it loose from when school was out or something, and they gave up on it because we couldn't find the owner. But there's a special technique for wrapping raptors. And I'm giving him a field exam right here, and clearly he's got a broken wing on this side, this guy right here. But I give a field exam prior to bringing him to the vet. That way we can decide what needs to be done. Sometimes it's euthanasia. Most of the time, we can't fix a broken bird, to be honest with you. We try with the University of Illinois has their vet department, right? And they got a wildlife department. And this may sound horrible, but even your doctors practiced on cadavers, so that's how they have to learn. So the veterinarians do their best to put pins in wings, fix what they can, and a lot of it comes from the wildlife. They're making an effort to do their best, but they're students overseen by actual vets, but that's how they learn. So, I don't know, some people are upset about that, but you know, can't save them all anyway. Yes, ma'am.
Do you work with the Raptor?
The Raptor Center? If they need something from me, like, well, if I need to place something, then that sometimes happens. But for the most part, I haven't done much with them because by the time I get my hands on a raptor, I gotta stop touching that mic. By the time I get my hands on a raptor, he's either in bad shape or he's going to U of I first. And then U of I, after it's healed up and strong enough, then goes to the Raptor Center. Or oftentimes they want to know exactly where said bird came from because we try to put things back where we got them. So long as it's not, you know, somebody's bathtub or some roof or attic, you know, they don't want that. But as long as it's a safe situation, we try to put them back into their own environment. That makes the most sense. You don't want to get picked up and dropped off somewhere else. Possums. I know you guys have seen some possums, but pretty much the Buddhists of the wild kingdom in this area, they don't really want any trouble, and they're not fantastic fighters. They can bite the hell out of you. Don't put your finger in your mouth, but they don't even want to bite you. They're not real fast. They're not great at fighting. They've got some skills. They have a thumb on their back foot. Who knew, right? But they eat thousands of ticks a week. So maybe leave them in your yard, not worry about them. If you've got dogs, then maybe if it's nighttime, peek out there first. You probably shouldn't do that because I can't tell you where a skunk is going to be and not be. You don't want that. So if it's nighttime, you might want to look outside before you let them out in the yard to just run around. Animal evictions. I don't trap, and so I just don't think it's a good idea. I think it's like the worst thing you could do right off the bat. It's like the last-ditch effort. Like instead of using your brain, you just went to, let's try to trap it. Then do what people like to trap and then call me, Chase, will you come solve the problem from here? No, you were illegally trapping, and you want me to jump in on this. I'm like, I can't. So don't trap. Don't do it unless somebody's you have a permit from the department and you've got all the skills and a plan in place, and you're given X amount of rules. So really don't. I've got some other clever ideas as far as the eviction. We're making a video here. That was me washing a squirrel with Dawn. Did you know Dawn is a great flea killer? I didn't know that until recently, but well worth noting. Let's see. Here's a young raccoon. When they're young, first year, their immune systems aren't very good. And I'm sure, just like humans, you know, those are the ones that are susceptible to distemper. It's the first year. And I see he's kind of nibbling on my fingers. But he really should be, even at that age, he should be ready to fight. And he's basically toying with me. And I know he looks cute and all, but unfortunately, I think he was either underfed, poisoned, or has distemper. Sometimes, and we do our best to determine what that is before anything gets euthanized, because that's the last thing we want. Although, if it gets out to the rehab, then if it gets released, it's not in town anymore. Now, currently we have a GoFundMe on my Facebook page, Local Tarzan's Compassionate Wildlife Solutions. There is a GoFundMe on there. I try to keep the number sensibly low, but this is an all-year, 24/7, even though the hours say it's not 24/7, people call me whenever they do. And this has gone on now, this has been my 4th year, and it's supposed to die down in the fall and winter. It does a little bit, but I've been getting calls all through the winter. I guess you get that with popularity. But with the funds go to, first year I needed $1,200 worth of vaccinations myself. Rabies is super rare, okay? Astronomically rare. People freak out about rabies. And you should, because if you do get bitten by something that has rabies, if you don't get treated for it before you're showing signs, then it's too late for you. You're done. Stick a fork in you. But chances are an asteroid will crash through your house and take you out while you're sitting in front of the TV before you even see an animal with rabies. I've got it because I do get bitten every once in a while, and I do get in rooms where I may find myself of the bat stuck in my hair or something like that, and who knows what could go down. Certain animals are more susceptible to such things like rabies. Here's that little guy again. See, I love chipmunks so much. We're in there handling business. And that's just to hydrate him, okay? So subcutaneous injection of lactated ringers, that drip you see in the movies in the IV, that's the same thing. But you're never going to find a vein on that guy. So that's how we do it. Anyway, so a lot of the funds go to the rescue Tahoe has taken a beating. Last year's funds and more all went to try to keep that thing up and running. Now, it's not a crappy vehicle by any means. It's pretty awesome. In fact, it's retired fire rescue and it became a wildlife rescue. But you know, you can only drive around so much before you wear out the brakes, wear out the tires, wear out the whole car. So I spent every bit of the funds trying to keep that thing on the road last year. Fuel, tools of the trade, I lose nets, snare pull. I lose things from time to time. Things break, whatever. But all of this takes definite amount of time away from a gainful employment of my other 2 careers that I've got going on. I'm a landlord of 6 buildings, and that's how I work on those a lot, but I can adjust my timing, you know, the schedule, you know, fix the toilet, raccoon on the roof. So I'm running this way that ducklings in a drain. I get that one a lot. It's coming soon. So that's how I've been able to get by on this with the little amount of funding that we've gotten so far. The city is talking to me about putting a retainer on me of sorts so that, you know, some kind of chunk of change where they can call me and go, all right, we need you to do this, that. They've already sent me on things, pro bono, by the way, to go investigate and see if I can solve some problems for the city of Bloomington. So hopefully that will turn into gainful employment. I'm plenty employed. I don't want to sound like a loser that doesn't have it, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got 3 careers I'm trying to juggle, this being one. And so that's why, kind of why we're here, is to try to discuss what can be done to try to generate a little bit more funds. It keeps things smooth when everyone's happy, and I can get more things done for the public when the funding is there. When you feel like, you know, you're running on fumes and you're just getting you end up getting a little negative, I think. I think that it kind of affects you after a while. You get a little jaded, and then you have some people that will blow your mind with kindness and compliments, and you're like, wow, I really needed that. And then you'll have 3 people get aggravated with you and hang up on you. It's like, well, thanks for not helping, click. I'm like, well, it was a duck on a lake. I'm a fantastic swimmer. Mom made sure of that. However, I can't outswim a duck. They can dive under, and then they can fly away from the water. What do? So there's times when I'm at a loss. So I think we're going to go to the questions and answers. Anybody have any questions thus far? Wow. I think we covered it. Let's see, is there any other clever videos on there? I think we nailed it all, right on time.
I'm just curious about feral cats. We have a lot of them in our neighborhood. And there's people that capture them and they do something to their ears, give them shots, and then let them go.
Sterile feral.
Yeah, and they can cause a lot of problems. Even the pet cats, some of those pet cats that run around and, you know, I think they kill a lot of birds and stuff too. I've heard that.
There's a reason why I don't like cats. Mostly, well, I'm a dog person, but I'm actually more of a wildlife person than even a dog person. But cats have horrible bacteria in their mouth. It's like a crocodile's bum. That's how much bacteria is in a cat's mouth. If you've ever been bitten by a cat, you'll know the infection that you got. And remember, that's why. Nothing that you did. There's so much bacteria in a cat's mouth. Small animals, just from a bite. If the puncture didn't go into an organ, a vital organ, then a couple days later, the infection actually kills a small animal. Same size as the cat even. So they shouldn't be outside. They're not part of the natural ecosystem. People are like, yeah, but they're outside. And that doesn't mean, I can go to Florida and grab some little gators, right, and throw them in the Miller Park Lake. Is that part of the ecosystem? I think not. And by the time somebody gets hurt because the alligator got somebody or something, then we'd have a problem. But the people are not making a big deal about the cats, but they are a problem. And here's the thing. A cat, any pet that you just let roam, obviously you don't love it the way you should, because it's not, you can't keep an SUV from squishing it. You can't keep it from getting into trouble or hurt. You certainly probably don't have it vaccinated the way it should. And unless your cat or pet is a wolf, it's not the apex predator. And some people think that a cat can take on anything out in the wild. Domestic cat is not the apex predator. If you don't believe me, I don't have any on me, but you can look online and find plenty of coyotes and foxes making great snacks out of cats. So if your cat turns up missing, there's lots of reasons why. I see them on the highway kind of mangled all the time lately. And then, like I said, they'll just disappear because dogs are eating them, just like in the cartoons. Just not Fido, it's Wile E. Coyote. You had a question?
Yeah, I had a hawk fly through a screen and porch.
Uh-huh.
And I called animal control. They said, well, we can't do anything about it. And he said, just open the door. Well, the problem is the door was locked. I mean, I would have had to turn my back to it. So I ended up using an umbrella to make
What year was that? Was that recent?
What?
Was that recently? Recently?
It was maybe 2 years, 3 years.
Okay. They've been better about giving my phone number out. Even if you call the police, they'll either call me or they'll dispatch me for a lot of these things. So, yeah, a hawk, most of them are federally protected. They would want the rest of us that are involved, the biology department, Department of Natural Resources, all these people would want to make sure that hawk is in good hands, because if it's not dealt with correctly, you could get in trouble.
Right, yeah.
So,
When I went out there, of course, it's flying up to the ceiling, and, you know, I didn't want to get attacked by the claws or a beak, and
yeah.
he basically said, well, just open the door. Well, the door was locked, so I had to turn my back to him.
Well, did you get him out?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. For you?
Let's do one more question.
Okay.
All right. Back when I worked at a wildlife center, I know you always take care of a raptor with gloves on the inside. The great horned owl's got strong teeth in that. But you mentioned that you don't give your wild animals rabies shots. I know back in the 70s and 80s, I always gave my dog a rabies shot once a year for doing that kind of stuff.
Domestic animals are supposed to have their shots, but
Wild animals do not.
But wild animals, you could but it's nobody's paying for it except for the nurse there. So unless somebody's doing that,
For distemper you're looking for, but not.
rabies is so rare that it's a waste of money. But distemper is not. It's a big deal. That's why they're talking about zombie coons and whatnot. That's distemper. Okay. Well, any other questions we'll have to take outside because we're going to cut this off. We're going to give them their room back. My business cards are out on this table. Someone asked me earlier. Yes, we are. There is a GoFundMe page on on the Facebook page, or you can look up. It's all that stuff is on there. Or you can always call me or whatever. We are doing. If anyone has donations today, that's also fine. But anyway, if you have any questions, we'll take it outside. Otherwise, everyone have a good day, and I hope you had a good time today.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. Jerry. Before you go,